Most people are emotionally weak. They react too fast, care too much, and get controlled without even realizing it. They think kindness, compromise, openness will bring respect. But in reality, it makes them predictable, soft, and forgettable. Today, we're going to destroy that illusion. You will learn how to become emotionally dangerous, the kind of person no one plays with and everyone watches carefully. In the game of power, your emotions are not sacred. They are ammunition. To show them freely is to hand your opponent the blueprint to your soul. The emotionally dangerous man understands this. He knows that those who cannot control their reactions will always be controlled. So, he becomes unreadable. He becomes a mask. In every conversation, negotiation, and confrontation, he hides what others would reveal: fear, anger, desire, weakness. Because the moment someone can predict how you feel, they can manipulate what you'll do. The world is filled with emotional exhibitionists. They bleed their insecurities in every conversation. You'll hear them justify, explain, apologize, desperate to be understood. But those who seek to be understood often become misunderstood by design. Emotional transparency may win you sympathy, but it will never earn you power. In a room full of expressive people, the one who feels the least, or at least appears to, becomes the center of gravity. He dictates the tone of the interaction without needing to speak it. Disguise is not deception. It is dominance. When they expect you to react with rage, respond with indifference. When they try to provoke sadness, give them silence. When they brag about their victories, congratulate them with calm eyes. You must become emotionally invisible while remaining psychologically alert. This is the foundation of psychological warfare. They don't know if you're broken or bored, proud or plotting. You rob them of certainty. And a man uncertain is a man off balance. When people cannot read you, they begin to narrate you. They build theories in their head, trying to guess your feelings, your thoughts, your intentions. That guessing game creates paranoia, and paranoia gives you power. The more silent and restrained you become, the more others will project their fears, hopes, and guilt onto you. You haven't said a word, yet you've manipulated their inner world. That is emotional disguise at its peak. Do not confuse emotional disguise with suppression. This is not the denial of emotion, but the weaponization of it. You still feel, but you don't leak. You don't show your hand until the timing is perfect. This level of control takes training. You must learn to feel without flinching, to listen without reacting, to be surrounded by chaos and still hear the rhythm of the room. Every insult becomes information. Every compliment becomes a test. Every confrontation becomes a chance to reveal nothing and learn everything. The emotionally dangerous man has mastered neutrality. His face remains unreadable, his tone consistent, his posture unshaken, and yet his presence disturbs others. Why? Because he is an emotional anomaly in a world of oversharers. His calmness is unnerving. His stillness becomes a mirror. And what others see in that mirror is their own instability, their own desperation for a reaction, a response, a sign that he is just as weak as they are. But he gives them none. This mastery begins with discipline. Control your facial expressions. They are the first to betray you. A slight eyebrow raise, a twitch of the lip, a blink too quick. These are leaks. Close them. Study actors, interrogators, negotiators. Men who know how to freeze their emotions in time. Learn to speak in tone, not feeling. Say, "I understand," with the same expression you used to say, "I'll destroy you." Make your body language a chessboard, not a diary. Then train your mind to observe rather than absorb. Most people listen emotionally. You must listen strategically. When someone attacks you with words, don't defend, dissect. Note their patterns, their emotional weaknesses, their need for validation. Let them talk. Let them reveal. The more they express, the more you control. Because control is not about what you show. It's about what you see. You must also kill the habit of explaining yourself. Every explanation is a leak. If someone misunderstands you, let them. If they accuse you falsely, remain unmoved. Your silence becomes a test, one they usually fail by overreacting. In a world where people fight for validation, your refusal to explain becomes a show of power. It says, "You are not important enough to deserve my truth." This emotional disguise extends even to those closest to you. Never assume loyalty means safety. The moment someone knows how to trigger your emotions, they own a piece of you. So, Keep parts of yourself hidden even in intimacy. Be warm, but not exposed. Be present, but not predictable. Reveal only what strengthens your position, never what weakens it. Even in conflict, disguise is your greatest ally. Let them shout, let them explode, and when the dust settles, be the only one still breathing calmly. That moment will haunt them. They'll question why you didn't break. And in that question, you'll live rent-free in their mind. You didn't need to win the argument. You won the war of perception. The emotionally dangerous man is not emotionless. He is emotional, but disciplined. He is passionate, but practiced. He cries where no one sees, bleeds where no one looks, and laughs only when it serves him. His disguise is not weakness, it's his armor. His silence is not absence, it's calculation. He has turned emotion into strategy, and that strategy into power. There is a kind of power that doesn't come from speaking, but from the refusal to speak. In a world addicted to attention and noise, silence becomes a weapon. And not just any silence, but a precise, intentional, commanding silence that rattles the weak and forces the powerful to adjust their posture. The emotionally dangerous man doesn't shout over the chaos, he absorbs it. He lets others fill the space with words, while he sits in the eye of the storm, still and unmoved. And that stillness, that calm restraint, becomes louder than any argument, insult, or demand ever could. Most people are terrified of silence. They rush to fill it. They explain themselves into weakness, talk themselves into guilt, and react themselves into regret. Their emotions drive their mouths, and their mouths drive their downfall. The man who can remain silent in a moment of emotional heat is the man who owns that moment. He is the one writing the rules of the room. Because when you withhold your reaction, you deny your opponent control. They expect resistance. They expect defensiveness. They expect emotion. And when you give them nothing, they are left exposed, confused, and off balance. Power is not in the volume of your words, but in the weight of your presence. You must learn to make your silence feel heavier than their shouts. A pause before you speak. A calm stare in the middle of an emotional rant. A smirk instead of a sentence. These small moments create disproportionate psychological pressure because they force others to confront themselves. And most people cannot face themselves without breaking. The emotionally dangerous man uses silence as a test. When someone accuses him falsely, he watches. He studies their tone, their breath, the cracks in their voice. He is not in a rush to prove innocence. He is not desperate to be liked or understood. He knows that speaking too soon would shift the power dynamic. So he lets the silence grow, lets their discomfort rise, until the other person reveals more than they meant to. Words are tools. Silence is a scalpel. Control the timing of your speech like a general controls a battlefield. Never speak, just to react. Speak only when the silence has done enough damage to make your words land with finality. Most people speak emotionally. You must speak surgically. They use words to express their feelings. You use words to dismantle illusions, to realign power, to shift the terrain beneath your enemy's feet. And often, the longer you wait, the more devastating your words become. Silence also demands discipline. It requires you to master your emotional triggers. When someone insults you, silence does not mean swallowing your pride. It means turning their insult into your advantage. Let them believe they've hurt you. Let them underestimate your calm. Let them speak until they become transparent. Because every word they say out of ego, desperation, or fear is information. And information in the hands of a disciplined man becomes leverage. Most of society is trained to believe that speaking up equals strength. That silence is submission. That being loud is being right. But the emotionally dangerous man operates on a higher code. He understands that silence is not the absence of power. It is the concealment of it. The more others talk, the more predictable they become. But when you speak less, you become a mystery, a threat, a presence they can't define. In negotiations, silence is often the deadliest strategy. After making a demand or presenting an offer, remain still. Do not rush to fill the air. Let the silence press against their nerves. People will reveal their true motivations when they can no longer bear your calm. They'll start to bargain against themselves. They'll compromise just to make the pressure stop. You haven't even spoken, yet you've won. Even in relationships, silence is a weapon of value. The man who does not rush to text back, who doesn't react instantly to every emotion, who knows how to retreat into silence without insecurity, becomes magnetic. His lack of emotional desperation makes others work harder for his attention. His quiet strength makes him rare in a world that screams for approval. Train yourself to be comfortable in uncomfortable silences. When someone expects a reaction, breathe. When you're asked a loaded question, pause. When tension rises in a room, slow down your movements. Your ability to remain unaffected becomes a signal that you cannot be moved, that your emotions are yours alone, and that your presence is not up for negotiation. Silence also gives you time to think, time to see what others miss, time to strike with precision. And when you finally speak, every word is sharpened by the stillness that came before it. People will lean in. They'll listen, because you've taught them that when you speak, it matters. Those who fear silence fear themselves. Those who master it rule others. The emotionally dangerous man does not speak to be heard, he speaks to be obeyed. And sometimes, saying nothing commands more obedience than 1,000 shouted orders ever could. Every man carries wounds. Some are visible, most are not. But while the weak allow their pain to turn into confusion, emotional outbursts, and stories of victimhood, the emotionally dangerous man sharpens every scar into a blade. He does not waste his suffering. He studies it, dissects it, and from it, he creates an inner map of human behavior, betrayal, and survival. Pain is no longer just something that happened to him. It is something he weaponizes, and because of that, he becomes more precise, more calculated, and far more difficult to manipulate than the average man. In the realm of power, emotional precision is everything. Not just knowing how you feel, but knowing why, when, and what it means. The man who has truly studied his pain becomes terrifying because he no longer reacts to the surface. He sees what others miss. The passive, aggressive comment is heard as a test of dominance. The unexpected compliment is read as an attempt to influence. The subtle change in someone's energy is not ignored. It's cataloged. He doesn't cry about his past. He uses it to predict the future. Pain was his first teacher, and it taught him truths no book or mentor ever could. It showed him the cost of naivety. It exposed the cruelty of blind trust. It revealed how quickly love turns into leverage in the hands of the wrong person. Instead of crumbling under the weight of these lessons, he built a stronger structure from them. He stopped expecting people to protect his emotions and started protecting them himself. He didn't become cold, he became aware of how the world really works beneath the surface smiles, polite words, and hollow promises. Every betrayal left behind a blueprint. Who said what? How they said it? What came before? What came after? This is how emotional intelligence is forged, not in comfort, but in crisis. The emotionally dangerous man does not forget how people treated him when he was silent, when he had nothing, when he didn't fight back. Those memories are not just wounds, they are warnings. And warnings, when studied correctly, become defense systems. You don't need to build walls when your mind already sees who to keep out. There is a moment when a man who's been hurt realizes something fundamental. Pain itself is neutral. It is a signal, not a sentence. What you do with it determines your trajectory. Most people replay their pain like a looped song, using it to excuse weakness or avoid growth. The emotionally dangerous man rewrites the soundtrack. His pain becomes a cold clarity. He no longer begs for closure. He doesn't wait for apologies. He doesn't announce his healing. He simply moves with more precision than before. This level of mastery transforms his energy. He walks into rooms and doesn't try to impress. He observes. He doesn't chase connection. He filters it. His standards are no longer built on fantasy, on experience. He's not interested in people who feel good temporarily. He watches how they act under pressure, how they behave when he says no, how they speak when they think he isn't listening. Pain taught him not to listen to words, but to patterns. It trained him to spot the warning signs others overlook. That is precision, and that is why he rarely repeats mistakes. The emotionally dangerous man doesn't need revenge. He lets time take care of that. He understands that emotional detachment is more punishing than any insult. When he no longer reacts, when he no longer explains, when he no longer even acknowledges, that's when the lesson lands. People begin to feel the weight of his absence more than they ever appreciated his presence. That's the precision of knowing your value, forged by the pain of being undervalued for too long. He also no longer fears emotional pain, because he's already been through it. He knows what it's like to cry behind closed doors, to be misunderstood, betrayed, isolated. That familiarity makes him immune to manipulation. You cannot use fear to control a man who has already danced with it. You cannot use guilt to trap a man who has already been burned by it. His strength doesn't come from pretending to be unhurt. It comes from having been hurt deeply and choosing to sharpen himself rather than shatter. People often mistake this kind of man for being too serious or too guarded. But what they don't realize is that he's not defensive. He's refined. He doesn't wear his emotions on his sleeve because he understands their value. He doesn't give out his energy like charity. He measures it, protects it, and invests it only where it brings returns. He doesn't open his heart with ease because pain taught him how costly that can be when done recklessly. Even in relationships, his emotional precision is his power. He doesn't fall in love with potential. He waits, watches, and calculates. He doesn't get lost in romantic illusions. He tracks consistency, tests loyalty, and observes reactions in uncomfortable situations. That doesn't make him cold. It makes him dangerous. Because while others are distracted by how someone makes them feel, he's focused on what they reveal when they think no one is watching. This mindset doesn't make his life emotionless. It makes his emotions strategic. He still feels deeply, but he no longer bleeds for the undeserving. He still loves, but with the kind of patience and depth that only those who've suffered can. And most importantly, he still gets hurt. But when he does, he doesn't fall apart, he sharpens. He studies, and he waits, because the emotionally dangerous man never wastes pain. He converts it into power, precision, and permanent lessons etched into the core of his being. The most feared man is not the loudest in the room, nor the most aggressive, nor even the most physically dominant. The man who truly unnerves others is the one whose mind cannot be penetrated. He could be surrounded by betrayal, chaos, or provocation, and yet his emotional world remains untouched, silent, distant, impenetrable. This man is not disconnected from reality. He simply refuses to let reality invade the sanctity of his inner world. He has built a fortress, and not a single thought, opinion, insult, or emotional tactic gets through without his permission. This kind of mental fortification is not built overnight. It is constructed brick by brick from years of pain, betrayal, disappointment, and a hard-earned understanding that the world will always try to dictate how you feel. Whether through praise or pressure, love or manipulation, society will attempt to colonize your inner space. It will tell you when to feel shame, when to feel anger, when to feel guilt, when to feel pride. And if you're weak, you'll comply. You'll hand over your emotional kingdom without resistance, and soon enough, you'll be ruled not by your mind, but by external forces pulling you in every direction. The emotionally dangerous man does the opposite. He establishes strict boundaries, not just physical, but psychological. He does not allow every situation to enter his mind. He does not react to every provocation. He does not feel obligated to explain, justify, or participate in emotional games designed to expose his weakness. His reactions are filtered. His emotions are secured. His silence is guarded not by fear, but by self-control. This inner fortress begins with detachment. Not the kind of detachment that turns a man cold or numb, but the kind that frees him from the need to constantly respond. He can see the chaos of the world, hear the voices of manipulation, feel the tension of emotional bait, and still choose not to internalize any of it. This control gives him an overwhelming advantage, because in a society that rewards reactivity, he becomes the rare figure no one can move. And when a man cannot be moved, he becomes the one who moves others. There is also clarity within his walls. Most people are emotionally disorganized. Their feelings are scattered, constantly shifting based on validation or conflict. But this man's mind is clean, not empty, but precise. He knows what matters and what doesn't. He knows what deserves his energy and what is a distraction. His emotional energy is not spilled carelessly across 100 different battles. He is selective, strategic, and detached from the urge to be liked or understood. He does not negotiate with emotional noise. Because he's built this fortress, others often accuse him of being distant or mysterious. But what they're really feeling is the discomfort of not being able to access or influence his internal world. Most people are addicted to emotional access. They feel entitled to it. When someone doesn't hand over their thoughts, feelings, or vulnerabilities, the average person panics. They assume you are cold, arrogant, or hiding something. In truth, you're protecting something. You are protecting the last remaining territory of real power, your inner stability. Inside this fortress, there is no desperation, no need to be seen, no craving for sympathy. He doesn't vent to feel better or cry publicly to appear authentic. He processes emotions privately, methodically, and when he emerges from his silence, he is clearer, stronger, and more refined than before. This privacy is power. Because the moment someone knows what destabilizes you, they can control you. But when no one knows what's going on behind your eyes, they are forced to respect you, or at the very least, fear what they cannot read. There is also discipline within these walls. The emotionally dangerous man does not entertain pointless arguments. He doesn't get lured into petty confrontations or dragged into emotional spirals. He watches how others try to bait him, with guilt, with tears, with insults, with pressure. And instead of biting, he observes. He measures. He controls. He does not let them breach the gate, because he knows once they enter, they will not just visit, they will colonize. He has seen it happen before, and he will not allow it again. Even in love, he protects his inner world. He can care deeply, but he does not dissolve into the other person. He does not become emotionally codependent. He doesn't offer his soul for validation or compromise his peace for attention. He gives affection, but only when it aligns with his principles. He gives access, but only to those who have proven they can handle the weight of his silence. Love does not weaken his fortress. It simply enters through the front gate, or not at all. This emotional distance makes him a target of curiosity. People want to know what he's thinking, what he's feeling, how to break his composure. But he offers nothing unless it serves a purpose. He does not hand over fragments of his soul just to be relatable. He does not perform vulnerability to gain sympathy or manipulate perception. His strength is in what he withholds. And that withholding becomes a mirror. It reveals the emotional weakness of those around him. The world may call him stoic, cold, or emotionally unavailable. But what he truly is uninvadable. He has built a fortress not to isolate himself, but to command himself. And from this place of calm control, he makes every move deliberately. He doesn't react to life. He orchestrates it. He doesn't reveal his fears. He analyzes them. And because no one else lives inside his emotional space, he makes decisions with a clarity that terrifies those still driven by impulse and noise. To become emotionally dangerous is not to suppress your feelings, to master them, to turn your emotions from unpredictable waves into sharpened weapons of strategy. In a world that worships oversharing and impulsive reaction, the man who remains calm, unreadable, and internally sovereign becomes a threat. He becomes a mystery that others cannot solve, a presence that disturbs the weak, and a mind that cannot be manipulated. He does not show his emotions on command. He chooses when to speak, when to strike, and when to disappear. His silence is a sword, his pain a map, his mind a fortress. And while others seek power through noise, status, or popularity, he claims it in stillness, in control, in the disciplined architecture of his inner world. This man cannot be broken, because he has already broken and built himself back into something colder, cleaner, and more dangerous. He has turned vulnerability into vision, weakness into warning, and emotion into a tool of power rather than a trap of chaos. When you master emotional disguise, speak less and observe more, convert your pain into clarity, and fortify your mind like a fortress, you no longer play the game. You control it. You are no longer at the mercy of others. They are at the mercy of your mystery.